So we will look at how curves work and how to convert them using the SweepMesh tool in detail. We had quickly gone over it at the beginning as well, but now I will go into a little more detail because it is important. So we are going to create a small curve. I had explained to you the different types of curves, and that we will often favor this one, let's say. So this tool that allowed us to make curves easily, just like that, with points, and efficiently. So to know that, we have created our curve, but there are several modes to create curves. So I double click here, and it opens the parameters of my curve. I will hop, there we go. So here, in fact, we see that we are using 3 cubic curves. If we switch to 1 linear, you will see that it does not provide any interpolation at all. It will not smooth out, if you will, your tile. It will create very straight lines, so it's quite useful. By the way, you can press Shift to make straight lines. For the rest of the curves, that is to say the 2, the 3. Well, the 3 curve we can use it too, but I never use it. It seems to me that it's for making kisses. I must admit we won't touch that because I don't use it either. So we'll stick to either 3 cubic or 1 linear. This is more than enough to handle most of our modeling. So I'm going to quickly clean all of this up, and I don't remember if I stayed in order. We're going to switch to 3 cubic. Okay, so we're going to create our little curve. So, a very simple little curve. Tap, 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 tap. Great. And we are going to do, it will be a little bit of an arcabon. So our curve, we will be able to, if you want, it is completely flat. We will be able to move it, just like we move vertices or edges or anything else. We right-click on our curve, and then we press Ctrl Vertex. So Ctrl Vertex, and there you see that we have vertices, because curves have vertices. And by selecting them, we can move them. There you go, so we can move them, rotate them, but here they are vertices, so if we only take one, it won't be very interesting. But here it is. We will be able to move them exactly as we want. So that's super, super, super useful. Curves are really something very practical. Okay, so we will definitely be able to do several different things with it. And we will be able to do several things with a tool called SweepMesh. The SweepMesh, which is a very useful tool, is this tool here. So we will click on it. And now, it opens a window in the Tribute editor. And we see that we have a cylinder that follows our curve that has been created. Great, so let's see what's happening. We will go to the Attribute editor, and then we will go to the SweepMesh creator. So, I remind you that the editor attribute shows us a bit of our history of what we've done on the mesh, whether it's extrudes, the SweepMesh, a bevel, a smooth, those kinds of things. It's super important because we can navigate through the tributaries to try to adjust the parameters of our work, tools that we applied to the mesh. And I remind you, if I do a dizzy story, you can see that we still have the shape of the tool that is still there, meaning we have the trace showing that we did a sweep, because it is called a sweep. And we, unfortunately, no longer have the parameters of the SweepMesh at this point. So that's really too bad. That's why I'm doing a little Ctrl-Z until we have the SweepMesh creator. So let's go back here. Here we have several sweep profiles. That is to say, we are in poly. We can switch to rectangle, line, arc, wave, and custom, because we can select a little bit of what we want, such as different shapes and styles, and also customize them. I don't really use that, I must admit. I mainly use this one, and particularly that one, that one, that one, and a little bit of that one. And honestly, it's super convenient. It's super convenient and it hasn't been available on Maya for that long. I think it must be maybe 2 or 3 years. 3 years maybe. And honestly, it's a really cool tool, super truly magical, because in a short amount of time, it allows us to do really cool things. And so in this mesh suite, we will be able to adjust quite a few things. We will be able to set the number of sides of our mesh. To add more details, one can also create a pentagon. One can also create hexagons, as well as other polygons. You can put in 18, you can put in whatever you want. You can also add a cape. So the cape will be a handgun. So I don't recommend it unless you don't care at all of your topology. But that's not really what we're going to do, I must admit. Distribution, so it's indeed amazing. You will see it now. Moreover, one can also create a star, which is really very specific. Additionally, in the process, one can even create a star. We're going to stay in a circle. Distributing is really great. It's great because honestly, we can create cables in just 2 clicks. And then, on top of that, we can adjust the cables, meaning we can set the number of cables we want. Be careful with the interpenetrations, because it can easily overlap and create things that are not very pretty. They can be scaled 1 by 1, so in fact they are instances, which means we can scale them independently. We can also rotate them. And we can definitely choose whether it makes a 180-degree turn or not. Great. And we can also, well, I don't remember exactly. So yes, here it is. Well, there are a lot of parameters, and there are some that we don't really use. That one, for example, I never use. On the other hand, what I use quite a bit is this. So we saw the distributor. We can switch back to normal, to solo. We'll leave it like that. You know why? Because I'm going to show you something right after. So the scale profile will scale globally, meaning it will affect the entire system uniformly. Rotate will also rotate globally, ensuring that the rotation is applied consistently across the whole system. And the twist is just great because you can create twists really in just 2 clicks. So these are things that honestly would take you much more time without the SweepMesh. You can also create a taper, meaning you can make it thinner on one side, thicker on one side, and you can adjust this taper just with a kind of curve, which is super interesting. And now you might say, but there aren't many edges. Honestly, it's not defined at all. We can adjust the precision. They call it precision, meaning that the more we increase it, the more edge loops and polygons we will have, and the more defined it will be. There are really way too many, but you get the idea. And honestly, you have something that really looks like a rope. And you can see that these 2 ropes are too far apart. So we can, you see, if I do this, it's more like the instance. So just before, we can move them like this so that they stick together and really form a braid. So that's super, super cool. Another little thing we can see with the curves is, so let's set that aside. We'll hide it there. It's a simple trick, but it's really useful. So I'm going to take a cube, scale it a little bit, and zoom in on it. Let's say, for instance, that I decide to add some additional edge loops to the model. This process involves inserting new loops to refine the geometry. And I just want to simply extrude that particular face there, except that I want it to follow a smooth and gentle curved path. So I could do it manually by hand by making a series of extrudes, you see, but it's definitely a hassle. It's really, truly, and extremely hard if you want to make something nice. And it's really hard to control. So here's what we can do. We can take a curve. I'm going to position myself from the top. It will be simpler. We will simply take a curve and we will just draw the path. We want our extrude to take, and then there you go. We are going to position it, so we will switch to wireframe mode. We will place our curve which has its center pivot always at the origin of the world. It's important to know that we will place our curve approximately and carefully, roughly in the middle of our face. We are going to take the face here, so we will select the face of our cube, the one we want to extrude. We will press Shift, we will select the curve, and then we will go into polymolding and extrude. So now you're thinking, but that didn't work at all. Well, if I add several divisions, it works great, and it's super handy for making cables or extrusions that go all over the place. Honestly, I use it quite a lot, and it's really practical. I can also do this without having to use the face. I can also do it with the edges, because we can extrude the edges. So if I do this by basically selecting my edges and my curve and I extrude, it does the same thing except that now my edges are the ones being extruded.